Welcome back to the late day wrap up. A little bit later than usual today, but for good reason, because we had to do a lot of cave work, some actual cave work. And of course, it's a little Z's broad day as well. So I do want to wish you well on this nice little Friday. And of course, I also want to say that this video is a little bit more of like a lightning wrap up. If you want the more in-depth information or in-depth analysis, then that would be this morning's video. It's going to be like 30 or 40 minutes of just straight up fucking spewing content. So with that in mind, we're going to start off with Dixie and check out all of the majors, plus Bitcoin follow up, and maybe even look at Ethereum as well and talk about all the major things to be aware of that are happening the soonest. So starting off with Dixie right now, I am still looking for this one to come a little bit lower here. I am still looking for this one to kind of range in general on the higher term timeframes like the weekly, but on the daily, since seeing as we just did test the topside resistance of the range at just below $91, and so far so good on a rejection, I would be looking for this one to come likely down into next week, somewhere down around right at the $90 base region. Now, of course, on the weekly, we can see that the range between about 91 to the upside and 89 3/4 to the downside is still very much viable and still very much valid. And as long as Dixie's kind of also in between there, I don't really have anything new to say about it. However, I would say that as long as it does not break below 89 3/4, could make the argument that this could be a potential macro low in progress, as we have seen very similar structures to this in the past, namely all of our macro reversals, like you see over here in 2018, like you see over here in 2011, like you see over here in 08, like you see over here in 95 and 90, and prior to that as well, which we actually don't have data for. But in that case, we typically do see those reversals take about 3 months, a little bit, in some cases a little bit more. On top of that, we do see that this current one operating off of this current low is just over 2 months now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so working on week number 8. So actually just around 2 months, it looks like, maybe a little bit less than that. And so we'd be looking at this for like another month if this is going to actually produce a greater reversal, of which the targeted region would be right around here at about 92 1/4 to 92 1/2, which is going to put a lot of downwards pressure on anything that trades against the dollar, which is pretty much everything. So with that in mind, as long as we're kind of also between this region, there's not any major breakout or breakdown to be spoken about, and it doesn't really give us any major biases. But move outside of the range, again, below 89 3/4 or above about 91 and some odd change, about 91 on a weekly closure, that's where things actually do start changing. Biases do start changing. In short term, I would have a bit of a downwards bias here based off momentum oscillators like our Stochastic Momentum Index, and of course the daily RSI here as well. Long term, this is actually starting to look a lot more like a bottoming formation, to be fair, but this can take longer and longer. So I would be looking for this to have the next move down and then probably play out another bounce somewhere around the $90 base. Moving on into traditional markets, let's go see what NASDAQ has done today. What have you done, my little NAS coins? New all-time, no, we do not have new all-time highs, but looking pretty damn good here, as Sacred always says. My NAS coins keep on going up, and I would be looking for these ones to not only retest the prior all-time high, but very likely gun for it, that critical 13.8, I think it was 13.825 or 13.850 ish region, 13.825, that is. Yeah, the 2.618 extension right here. Ultimately, though, do I think that that's going to be like the high of this rally? Probably not. Coming into next week, assuming that this one closes anywhere here or higher today, Friday, I would be looking for this to continue on into next week with a long-term target, not a next week target, but a long-term target somewhere around about $15,000. I know it sounds fucking crazy. It is a little bit crazy, but that is long term. So depending upon this weekly's closure, I'd essentially be looking for continuation coming into next week. And so far, lower term timeframes look very, very good here. Hidden bullish evidence all the way through. And I'd be looking for, a short term move back up towards 13.8 plus, as this is essentially reaccumulation right now. Same thing on SPY, it looks like a little bit better, or a little more obvious, I would say, with those hidden divergences off this low right here compared to this low over here. Actually significantly divergent right there. So I would be looking for a retest of the prior high at about 39.30-ish region, and very likely continuation on top of that, assuming that today's daily closure is basically anywhere above like 39.15 region. I would be looking for this one to gun towards 4,000 plus over the next month or two, most likely. Moving on into gold. Where's my gold? Yeah, gold's actually a really important one today, because it actually does have a chance to do something, except it's not doing it right now, and that would be this. My bias on gold is no bias. A healthy amount of I don't know is the proper response to this one right now. There's only one thing that would be very obvious for me for an next potential trade, although I don't really trade this one, and that would be closing above the 21 exponential average right here on the weekly, or above the range high, above the range closing high, which is about 1855-ish region. If one of those two conditions is met, which they're pretty much one and the same, I would be looking for another move back up to about 1950 and beyond. But for right now, it does look like pressure down on the weekly. Daily is just trudging along, so I don't really have anything to say about this. So yeah, a healthy amount of I don't know on this one would be called for. the only way that I get bullish is given that signal on a weekly closure, which is coming a little bit later today. Moving on into, do we want to look at euro dollar real quick? Yeah, sure. Why not, man? Playing off a nice bounce off the 21 on the weekly as well. This one actually does look like wants to pull through more medium term, probably back up to 122 over the next week or two. Had plenty of chances to break down here, just set in higher lows on the higher term timeframes. I can't really be bearish on this, although I'd really fucking like to. But for now, at least coming in next week, I'll probably be looking for another move back up to about 122 region, and then judge from there. No, nothing on top of that is essentially bullish or bearish. I'll just be looking for that and then come back to it. After that, what else should we check out? Maybe some Bitcoin action, I guess. I guess we'll do that thing again. Bitcoin charging back up to its prior all-time high. In fact, almost making a new all-time high. Just about the last 4 hours. Still looks good to me. Still operating within the range that we discussed on this morning's video. I don't think it's out of the ordinary at all for this one to come back down to even 45,500. This is all higher low territory as long as we hold this level right here. That's where the bias does change. Similar to kind of like gold above that 1855 pivot. Bitcoin below 44,000 and 400 actually. Sorry, is that 400? Yeah, 44,400-ish region on a 4-hour closure. 2-hour closure, a little bit lower at about 44,100. Then I would switch into short-term, medium-term downside buys, looking for a move, another $3,000 to $4,000 lower around the $40,000 base. However, am I looking for that to happen like right now? No. My main thing with Bitcoin would be looking at the weekly closure for CMEs. This is the most important thing that could be happening as soon as today's weekly dildo closure, which could close above the topside Toronto band. In fact, it's well above it right now by more than $2,000. And if that condition is met, I would be looking for new all-time highs coming into next week. What happens over the weekend? Probably a whole lot of fuck you, most likely. But I don't look for CME to give the buys for the weekend. I look for CME to give the buys over the next week. So again, assuming that condition is met, I would essentially be looking for new all-time highs into the $50,000 region and very likely beyond, although I fucking don't like saying it. It's not that I don't like saying it. It's just, it feels weird, I've been looking at this thing ever since it was like $1,000 years ago. Kind of crazy. But yes, looking at this right here, if that condition is met, I'd be looking for a move into the $50,000 and beyond coming in the next week or two, a price action. Of course, if it were to close below, we have like a $2,000 dump between that time and closure, then I wouldn't necessarily get bearish just yet. Bearish obviously would be below $40,000 on a weekly closure. That would imply another test back down into the $34,000, $35,000 region, but I'm not really looking for that right now. If that were to happen, we'll discuss that tomorrow if that actually does happen. But for right now, things do look still more or less good. Daily's still more or less trending to me. Looking at even spot price action over here, we have to reminisce that the 2-day and 3-day closures last night were both trending above the topside Toronto band. So ultimately speaking, yes, I do still think that Bitcoin guns for 51,500 and probably into the deeper $50,000 region over the next couple weeks, probably towards $60,000 to be fair. Moving on to Ethereum really quickly here. Same shit. This one actually looking a little bit more threatening in the short term right here. I'd be looking for a move still somewhere around about $2,000. Topside Toronto bound on the daily expanding towards 1950-ish region. I imagine that, that's a 3-day actually. So I imagine that would be a little bit of a short-term short-term stopping point, but ultimately the weekly is in trending mode. I mean, after that breakout above the prior all-time high, this is not usually the place that you see reversals on in price discovery mode. I look at this as very, 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 very likely to continue as well towards 2,000. I think it was 2,200-ish region. If we go over to our charts, is it on this chart right here? No, it's not on this chart right here. Maybe this one over here. Let's see what the targets are. Yeah, 22, anywhere between about 22 and 23, it looks like, will be the next major areas probably for the next couple weeks. But again, over the weekend, I really have no major calls to be made. I really don't like those sorts of environments. Weird things do typically happen, and but this would set in the buys for the next week to come, namely off of the CME closure today. So with that in mind, I want to wish you the best. Salute you all. Take care, and until next time, my Z's, bras, and braettes.